Since the dawn of time,
Actually, it's just the previous era.
deep in the mountains, trained a lone phoenix, who has honed her skills over time to absolute perfection. For generations, she has fought the Honkai, and now embarks on a journey that... Okay, listen, I have no clue what I'm talking about at this point, since I'm like 4 chapters behind on story now. But at least I'm catching up on Genshin, for those with noble hearts. Welcome to the final guide before part 2 of Honkai Impact 3rd. Time to go all out on this guide just as much as I want to go all out on Fenghuang. Have you seen them thighs, bro? Okay, listen, at least I'm not as down bad as the comment section on Twitter and Instagram. Bro is still typing. I swear, he's gonna give that guy talking about Hu Tao a run for his money. Oh wait, the account is gone. Awkward. Anyways, my name is Jayniro, and I'll be your Pepega Honkai Twitch streamer guide on how exactly to build and play Garuda Fenghuang in the final patch of Honkai Impact 3rd. Having grown up doing and absolutely loving martial arts, it makes me happy that the only character in the game that has anything to do with it is finally getting another battlesuit after nearly 3 years. Don't mention bunny girls though. And then that battlesuit though came after another year of waiting. A very common thought behind martial arts is that it's just mindless punching and kicking, and while this isn't totally true, it does make sense for Fenghuang a little bit in this instance. FOV has 2 main stances that each determine how she fights. They largely do the same thing, but they each have their own respective meters because while it may grant max damage from using her basic attacks in a rotation, FOV Slider will instead punish you with her combo attacks for trying to use them. Each stance has their own respective chi that starts and caps at 300 points. Consuming all chi casts combo attack for each respective stance. This is where the bulk of Fenghuang's damage is going to be in her rotations. Each stance has different follow-ups as well. Pressing weapon skill does a joint attack that either dive kicks or shoulder charges. Meanwhile, pressing attack after does a normal attack which either slams her fist to the ground like Doom Fist, or she does an axe kick. She does possess a special mechanic for her combo attack though called Heart Flame, which is what my heart is every time I glance at Fenghuang. Using combo attack, joint attack, or parry attack 3 times lets you consume Heart Flame to enhance her joint attack and lower her HP to 36% of her max HP. The enhanced joint attack is where a huge portion of her damage lies. In kick stance, it's denoted by this sweep kick followed by a bicycle kick, while in punch stance it's denoted by her diving to the ground with both of her fists, which is what I want her to do to me in bed tonight. As I said before, Dave's Hot Chicken has a parry attack as well. In addition to being able to evade normally, pressing evasion without moving causes Fenghuang to enter the parry stance. Either blocking an attack or pressing attack instantly triggers ultimate evasion and casts parry attack based on the current stance, where she becomes Ryu and throws a Hadouken, or Chun-Li and unleashes a flurry of kicks with the meaty thighs. During combo attack, joint attack, and parry attack, Blaziken gains Iron Body and reduces damage taken by 65%, which is important, meaning that she can't be interrupted during these actions unlike Mr.
Oratrice mécanique d'analyse cardinale.
Meanwhile, she's completely invincible during the entire duration of her enhanced joint attack. In the spirit of anime, we can't have an anime protagonist that doesn't have an ultimate finishing move. Her ultimate sees Fenghuang pour all her life and literally consume every single point of her remaining HP to become One Punch Man and deliver a serious punch which deals massive damage and then recovers 25% of her max HP immediately afterwards. Bro, I swear that took me like 17 tries to record. I'm not joking. It should be noted though that Popeye's chicken here literally can't die, which makes sense considering the fact that she's lived for the past 50,000 years and still looks like a god tier MILF. That isn't to say you should be careless with her though, because the game will punish you about as much as she will herself if you let her die, since while she will regain 30% of her max HP, her total damage will be reduced by 50% and she'll consume 1 SP every second. So we haven't gotten a Valk in a long time that has been focused on quicker rotations, but Fenghuang is just that, although I wouldn't say she will be your next 0-second clearing character in MA since most of her damage is backloaded despite a faster rotation. Regenerating her chi meter takes an excruciatingly long time, but entering via her QTE regenerates both meters, setting her up perfectly for her rotation. After entering the field, it's more worth it to go for a quicker rotation than a full damage rotation, which takes much longer for not much more benefit in all honesty. Using parry attack into switch joint attack, then parry attack again into enhanced joint attack followed up by her ultimate, grants only about 500,000 damage less than a full damage rotation, which uses a full basic attack sequence after the stance change and parry attack. This lets Fenghuang get the full brunt of her combo attacks off, while easily setting up Heart Flame and also triggering her ultimate evasion for free. With that being said though, let's talk about how to maximize her damage with her equipment. We haven't gotten a fist weapon DPS in a long time, unless you want to count Senti, so it's no surprise that Fenghuang is set to be the best fister we've seen in a long time. This me. A lot of what we've gotten in more recent times has been more physical and support focused, but there are some surprises when it comes to Fenghuang. Torch of Eons Skyfire is her best in slot weapon, and it's pretty strong on other characters due to its high attack stat and the fact that it can create a pocket dimension that boosts total damage. While not everyone might be able to take advantage of the extra total damage and fire damage, free total damage is free total damage. But hey, if you don't want to swipe, then be gone! So I actually had to go back through my footage and testing and retry every single one of these weapons because I wasn't too sure on the numbers because everything was just so damn close. So there are going to be some surprises here that you're just not going to expect. Oblivion Down is actually surprisingly better than her non-signature pry weapon by a pretty sizable amount, about like 300k. But right on the coattails of a pry-arm weapon is surprisingly going to be Cinderhawks. Yeah, that weapon from year 1, you remember that one? That was used on Phoenix back in the day? It is actually a really damn good option on Fenghuang here, and it's just barely worse than her signature non-pry weapon. That is to say, though, if you do go for her weapon, get it, because it's such a large margin of difference of damage when you pry arm it. Right on the coattails, though, is, believe it or not, Cosmic Dualities. You know, as your Imperious pry weapon, it's surprisingly is just right up in there. We have 3 weapons that are just right in contenders with each other. And then the last weapon that I actually ended up testing was Scripts of Taishuan, simply because of the fact that it deals with fire damage, and I thought it would be a good free-to-play option, but Cinderhawks just completely blows it out of the water, so it's just a no-brainer. If you see it in the exchange shop or anywhere, grab that. But if you guys want to see all the actual numbers to see just how close the competition was on these numbers, here's a chart showcasing all the different weapons that I tested, and it's just crazy how close some of these are. There's not much to say when it comes to Fenghuang, other than the fact that she's giga cracked. Some of you may call her class monitor, just like our resident Tuna, but most of y'all will call her mommy. I mean, girl boss, because that's what she might as well be with how hard she slays her enemies. Despite her being an amazing fighter, her Stigmata sets might not be exactly what you'd expect. Actually, they probably are, since she has her own signature set. But just like her in bed, I know just how to keep it interesting. With Stigmata sets, cut! With such a crucial part of her kit scaling off her max HP, it makes sense that her Stigmata set aims to increase and manipulate her HP to its advantage. Her T-Stig increases her fire damage based off her current max HP, her M-Stig increases max HP by a flat amount and causes enemies to take more fire damage when she recovers HP. Her B-Stig, though, increases her total damage and causes attacks that are neither ultimate nor burst mode attacks to deal more fire damage. Additionally, when her HP is below a certain amount, ultimate or burst mode attacks deal additional fire damage. When specifically equipped on our Resident Field of View slider, this last effect goes from 20% to 60% additional fire damage. Meanwhile, for the set bonuses, just like the antithesis to Fire Chicken, Water Dragon, and Genshin, recovering or losing HP increases the Valkyrie's total damage. The crazy part is that this effect actually stacks on itself. Additionally, the full set bonus causes each stack from the 2-piece bonus to increase fire damage while also healing the Valkyrie for a short duration when it exits the field. When equipped on Kentucky Fried Chicken, it causes enemies to take even more total damage. Without the full set though, the damage drop-off can be felt harder than my GPA dropping after failing a class in college. Luckily though, I did go through and test a variety of different Stigmata setups. When testing different variations of parts of her gear set, I found it very interesting that Ragna T actually outperformed the G-Force T-Stig. Albeit it was a minor outperformance, it was still a dub for Ragna nonetheless. Meanwhile, without the signature B-Stig, there really was no reason at that point to not just run the full G4 set. When considering some other Stigmata sets like Leeuwenhoek and Margrave, the order of actions actually made a difference since some of the effects proc from either ult usage or SP consumption, so I decided to put both different rotations separately since the damage was pretty drastic in difference. I did also want to mention that I did test Hersha Finality's Stigmata set, specifically the T and M pieces with her signature B piece, and I did want to note that it was comparatively equal / roughly similar to both the G4 full set and also the signature set with the G4 B-Stig. With that being said though, it's ironic that even at 0 out of 4 pieces of her signature set makes her damage equivalent to a full set Triple S Dea Ancora. Where are the doo-doo stands now, huh? With that being said though, we can't make full use of all this gear and equipment on Fenghuang if we don't even have the proper teammates to fully buff her. Here we are, team comps. This section is probably going to be pretty quick since Fenghuang is in a similar predicament to Siren like I discussed back then. Fenghuang is an amazing fire DPS, but unfortunately I can't say the same for fire teams as a whole. There really aren't many options unfortunately, so what I'm about to say is probably to be expected if you're as into seeing big numbers like I am. To start things off, our backbone support is going to be defaulted to HTR. The sheer amount of support she provides to the team is nothing to scoff at all, and I see her being prevalent well into part 2, even with the new Astral Ring mechanics coming in. She provides a large source of elemental damage buffs as well as elemental breach that is just absolutely crucial in endgame and quite a detriment without. I know a lot of people probably missed out on her, and if you did, I'm sorry, but AE is right there as well. Just like I said back then though, a 0 out of 4 S0 HTR is better than a 4 out of 4 SS AE in terms of the buffs that they apply and give to the team. As for the sub DPS, the sure slot in is going to be ICHOR. If you haven't farmed out ICHOR yet, I strongly suggest doing so. ICHOR gives an astronomical boost in fire damage to the team while having pretty decent damage herself for a sub DPS. Not to mention that she applies a buttload of ignite trauma as well as making it super easy to ignite enemies and trigger Fenghuang's QTE. You can also use Raven as well, but I recommend against it since she's slow and clunky and also takes forever to get her ult back up. It's such a pain to use her, I just wouldn't even try, personally. I much more recommend using Sheikah Akira though and Partafelis as well since they're much easier to play and also grant total damage on their charge attacks and ultimates in addition to additional elemental damage. The last thing I want to talk about that I totally didn't forget to include though is her ranks. If you're being self-conscious of your spending right now like I am, then you probably want to know whether or not you should even go for her ranks. Her S1 increases her elemental breach primarily. This may not seem like much, but in Red Lotus and Nirvana, additional elemental breach could mean the difference between having to do an extra rotation and falling out of top 10 in your Abyss bracket. S2 causes enemies to take more fire damage from Fenghuang. Usually S2 is a stopping point for low spenders, and I would wholeheartedly agree. S3 though is an increase to her leader skill. Meanwhile, SS unlocks the ability to connect straight into your N4 and N5 from parry attack. This should enable a little bit of extra damage since for her basic attacks, the majority of her damage is backloaded. It additionally unlocks parry attack, dealing additional fire damage. The kicker, however, is that switching stances resets the evasion skill so you can kick enemy booties a little more. Alright, I'll save myself out now. SS1 doubles the increase in damage enemies take from combo, joint, and enhanced joint attacks. SS2 increases fire damage on entry or switching stances. SS3 is of course another increase to her leader skill, and SSS makes enemies take even more damage from Fenghuang. I would personally say that SS in general would be a generally good stopping point if you're a medium spender. I wouldn't push past that unless you're just gonna fully SS Fenghuang, but SS2 is a pretty decent stopping point for low spenders, but personally I'm probably just gonna go for S0. Fenghuang is an amazing Valkyrie, and I'm happy that our resident chicken mama is finally getting a well-deserved suit. I can't say the same though for my Fenghuang figurine though, since we're nearing the end of January. Holy shit, we're already halfway through January, what the fuck? And I still haven't gotten word of it shipping even after it's been delayed. Is this maybe going to be another situation like the Herrscher Flamesound figurine where it gets delayed month after month and nearly a year and it still hasn't come out yet? Except I've already got mine. Can't say the same for others. She's giga crack though, and I'm happy that she's finishing off this era of Honkai right before part 2. I have a lot planned, and I'm most likely going to overwork myself trying to meet my own expectations of what I want to do prior to part 2 launching. In the meantime though, I'm going to finish editing this, and I'm most likely going to go continue playing Monster Hunter. Bye.